Alright, what's going on, you guys? It's your boy 360 in this thing, baby, representing TKOG. Oh, bro, I've been cooking. I've been cooking, bro. I've been cooking. Like, man, I'm out here trying to keep dolls alive, bro. I was researching a lot of stuff, and I was like, dude, like, that list I had was so crazy. It was so crazy. And I'm like, there's gotta be more, right? Like, I did more of a pure SHADDOLL variant. I'm like, well, like, I've always loved the interactions that INVOKED give to SHADDOLLs, which is incredible. It's superb. It's phenomenal. It's top tier. It's A1 since day one. It's literally just gross. It's so good. I really, really like Meltdown as a card. I like cards like Brandon Lost and Meltdown. They give interactions that SHADDOLLs just literally do not have themselves. So this is the goo that I've got for you guys. There's like so much fine lines and little intricate details that are just going to be easily overlooked. So I'm going to explain it. I'm going to teach you guys. I'm going to show you guys the goo. And you're going to understand my mindset, my thought process behind building this deck, and how I built it to be able to navigate through established boards post Photon Hypernova. We're talking about like Cash. We're talking Tier. We're talking Runic. We're talking Flu. You know, all that good stuff. So, yeah, let's get started, you guys. So first and foremost, as a disclaimer, this deck's worst matchup always and forever will be a Bears.you deck. So no matter what you do, you're either going to play like 3 Super Polys and just hope that you like draw an Alistair, or you're going to play a doll like the Wind Doll and you're going to hope that you draw a Super Poly plus that. Other than that, like, you're literally just like hoping that you're not under Shifter, and then you can like Nadir Servant, pop a Bear statue, and guess what? You're going to be able to special summon non-wins, but you're locked out of your extra deck, so what do you need a special summon for? So it's just always going to be the worst matchup for that deck, no matter how you guys look at it. So Flu is this deck's worst nightmare. But with all that said, if you haven't done so already, definitely consider subscribing to the channel. Leave a like if you liked the video, leave a dislike if you didn't. Consider joining the Patreon and also the Discord if you want to support the channel even further and interact with me outside of the tube. But yeah, bros, like, I've been cooking, yo. I ain't gonna lie, this deck really do be cooking people too, bro. Like, there's more I can do. I can make it 60, because I like Ultimate Slayer, but I hate how I have to design my extra deck to make Ultimate Slayer as impactful as I want it to be. And I really do like the Cashier cards. Like, I like just the Finra package and like the Gammas and all that, but like, ultimately it came down to space. I wanted to keep 45 as my 40, and there's so much that had to be sacrificed. Ultimately, I really wanted to test out some of the newer cards. Like, we're getting a huge boost. Like, SHADDOLL gets a huge boost with Cartesia, just because she's able to access Grand Gugnil so consistently, and also just being a fusion outlet into like worst case scenario construct. If you already had like enough engine, it's just like such a power play in this deck. She really does benefit this deck. I feel like she benefits this deck arguably just as much as she benefits the branded deck. But like, she is more versatile because like it's so much easier to make fusion plays with her. Like, you don't have to hard draw like Albaz, you know, because like in the branded deck, essentially, like, if you don't hard draw Albaz, all she's doing is just making this or making like a Despia fusion. But in this deck, like, she literally can like tutor out Construct, which is your entire deck. She can tutor out like she literally can tutor out even Makaba. You know, she can tutor out the Grand Gugnol. And also just being recurable every single turn. She's really, really strong. She just gives this deck a whole new dimension to how it can be played, and the deck building process is so different, and the variety makes it a lot more fun because there's just so much more that you can do with your cards. And ultimately, the end goal is always to get your engine. You know what SHADDOLL's? Their engine is so powerful and so slept on. And I know people say slept on all the time, like it's a overly used. At this point, that terminology might as well just be a cliche because everything's being slept on, bro. But y'all just don't know. This deck is actually really good. It's actually a good deck. So like, when I say something slept on, I'm not saying, oh, it's just bad and people just say it's bad and I just refuse to acknowledge it's bad. I'm saying like something slept on because it's really actually good. Not like as a solid rogue deck, but like as a meta contender. You know, this deck is so good going second and going first. It's kind of crazy just how well this deck navigates with pure engine, bro. When I say pure engine, I'm talking about like, you're going first cards or you're going second cards. People just don't understand. They just don't look at it this way. this deck doesn't really need a lot of going second cards. As long as you're not under Shifter, and this deck plays better under Dweller. This new list plays better under Dweller, so thank you, Lord Jesus. But as long as you're not under Shifter and under Dweller, but even with Dweller, like, you could still do stuff. But as long as you're not under Shifter, this deck naturally can just play through a lot of the established boards right now in this format. Like, it's really, really powerful. It's really cray-cray how many negates it can push through. And going first, like, it's not just Kaliga Winda anymore. It's just a whole new dimension. It's like interactions with like Kaliga and Winda and Makaba. Like, you can literally end on Kaliga, Winda, Dweller, and you don't really need to activate any monster effects besides Dweller. And so, like, that way you're literally putting your opponent under Dweller, and they still have to deal with Kaliga, so they get one monster effect. But even if they get rid of Kaliga somehow miraculously, they're under Dweller. So, like, it's playing around Dark Ruler. And then, like, you can set up double Winda with insane follow-up, so much pressure. You can diversify how you end your board. It's ridiculous. It really is. It's not even, like, kind of crazy. It just is crazy. Because, like, you can literally end on, like, 8 interruptions with this deck. And the follow-up's absurd. How much recursion you get out of your cards. It's really ridiculous. You have such a great expansive and diverse toolbox, enabling you to navigate out of situations that you naturally, other decks just don't really have that kind of I would say utility. But Shaddolls, you know how I feel about this deck. Like, this deck's goated. They just really just find a way to just somehow just like always come out in the upper hand in so many like just undermining situations where you just would look at it and be like, yeah, I would have scooped if I were you. But it's like, nah, bro, I'm not going to scoop because I actually know how to outplay a lot of these decks. Like, a lot of these boards that are being put up, if you play this deck in practice, you will learn how to consistently, like, you will get so good with it, like, you'll just draw a hand and be like, I know I can break it. Like, there's certain combinations of cards, or like, even against tier, like, because they don't always just like blind Dweller. Sometimes, like, they just end like with a really, really strong board with like Solik, the counter trap. They'll have the Sprite linked to with like Rune Kalos, or either Rune Kalos with what's his name? Either Rune Kalos or the other guy, the Kaleido Heart, with like another tier, and what's her name? Havness in hand. Like, they'll basically set up a board similar to my deck where like they're just set up to interact and play on your turn. But like, believe it or not, like, this deck can push through those boards, bro. The only thing that really is relevant is the counter trap, which is just the crime. Like, Solik is not very hard for this deck to push through. You know, when it comes to like Rune Kalos and the tier cards themselves, like, they're really good. They have a lot of advantage. But like, this is also a deck like where you cannot actually mill 5 against this deck. You can if at your own peril, but when you mill 5, you having shufflers is not gonna matter. So like, if you want to mill 5, you have to have Dweller. And if you don't have Dweller and you mill 5, like, I just get too far ahead, like way farther than I should be on turn 0. So yeah, this deck's crazy. So for the dolls, yeah, I'm long-winded with this. Like, you guys know my passion is just, it's the enthusiasm and passion I have for this archetype is just so surreal. So I'm on 3 Squamata. Squamata and Hedgehog are a lot more ideal in this list because they pair really well with Cartesia. Windy being a non-light or dark kind of hurts a little bit. And also, like, Squamata interactions with light are kind of crazy too. Like, because this is another card that I've been messing around with, is Shadow's Light. It has so much packed into one card. It's really, really broken. Especially because, you know, my boy Alistair's not once per turn. So, yeah, I'm changing the doll lineup. I cut Genius because it's harder for Genius to be good when you need him to be. Because, like, you have lingering effects, and then you have continuous kind of Floodgate-esque monsters, and preventing monsters from activating their effects doesn't really matter when, like, they're just doing something by being present. You know, like, it's just ridiculous. Like, the Castrila monsters, like, they're, even if you prevent the Rise Heart from banishing, it's like, he's still a macro. He's still a macro no matter how you look at it. He's still a macro. And what's super important in the cash matchup is simply being able to Opcalone perm negate him. And that's where, like, Shaddol Fusion is really, really impactful, because even though your cards get banished, the fact that you can permanently negate the Rise Heart and enable yourself to play is a really, really big deal. You know, it's a huge deal. And so, like, Genius is just not cutting it right now. I cannot play without Dragon. It's just so many situations where chain blocking Dragon literally is just too free. It's ridiculous. So these are all starters, but they're also going second cards. So Tasking is one of the most godly cards ever printed in the history of Yu-Gi-Oh! In this deck, it's broken because every good starter is a normal spell. So like this card is literally just like the best going second card in the deck because it's 3 more copies of Fusion Deployment or Shaddoll Fusion or Nadir or even Meltdown because of Terraforming being a normal spell. It even is just more copies of Shadow's Light. It's a talent if you need it to be. It's just icing on icing on icing on icing on an already very delicately cut and beautiful pound cake. So it's ridiculous. It really is. It's ridiculous. Even set and not being able to activate, I'm totally fine with setting a Shaddoll Incarnation or setting a Punishment. You know, I'm totally fine with that. Like I'm not gonna complain about it, but more optimally, this card going second is the stones. It is the absolute stones. It's ridiculous. It's so powerful. Shaddoll Fusion, play starter, going second card. It's just insane. Fusion outlets are so good in this deck, but like this is goated. This is the very first card of his design. This and Void Imagination were like the first cards of their design that did this kind of thing. Fusing from deck is such a common trend now, but this card paved the way for these other cats to be doing it. So Fusion Deployment, we're only playing Cartesia as a target. So we're playing 2 because like you want to actually have like pseudo 5 copies of her, really 8 with Tasking. She's a good normal summon, but your normal summon always goes to Alistair. You just always want to have 2 for ratios, and also you never want to draw it and this be dead, and you want a normal Alistair every time you're normally Alistair. 3 Nadir, this card is just absolutely broken. It's at 3. It's crazy how we're at a point in Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now where danger monsters are not broken. Nadir Servant is not broken. Winda is not broken. Like, Kaliga is not broken. It's crazy that the cards that were complained about and we really wanted them to be banned for so long, like, these decks are at full power and they're just not broken. Like, Sword Soul has all its cards. Like, it's just crazy how power creep really works. But yeah, I see this card is just so powerful. It's so good. But honestly, like, the absolute most nutty and crazy card in this deck is by far and by a large margin, it's Meltdown. Meltdown provides interactions that deny interactions. This card is so versatile, I can turn it into a soul drain, a skill drain, and when I say soul drain, really just think of it as like a dweller, a skill drain. It can be a solemn strike. It can literally be like an impermanence that cannot be negated. This card can be a DD Crow that cannot be interacted with. Because you can manipulate chain links and manipulate what can and cannot resolve, and cards you can deny and stifle activations, because you prevent your opponent from being able to interact when they really are supposed to, this card fills the niche of so many different cards. People just do not understand how many applications this card has. On summon is one of the best windows for this card because you have quick effects, you just do it. You want to play around tier shufflers, just activate graveyard effects, you know. And the beauty with Meltdown is because Shaddolls have effects when they're used as fusion materials, and they immediately happen all in summon. So every time you fusion with Meltdown, none of your Shaddol effects can be interacted with. Nothing can be negated, nothing can be shuffled, nothing can be banished, nothing can be touched, because they happen when they're used as materials to summon the monster, and when the monster is summoned, their effects trigger on that summon window. So Meltdown just says your Shaddolls never can be interacted with. And there's some powerful interactions that you can get. It means Opcolone and Construct can never be interacted with. It means Aguadis is always going to pop and there's nothing you can do. It means this card cannot be interacted with. So Meltdown's ridiculous. Like, with tiers, if they have crime, they have to crime this. If they don't crime Meltdown, it's free real estate. Like, literally, you don't even know. People don't know. They think tier's so good, and it really is, but, like, they just don't understand that this deck will bully tier, bro. Like, if they cannot stop Meltdown from hitting the field, it's free. Havness won't be able to activate on summon. Like, Rune Kalos won't be able to negate Jack Squat. Solik will never be able to activate it unless it's like normal summon Alistair, because everything's going to happen on fusion summon. And it goes from all these interruptions that you have to none of them are useful, because you get out all the cards you want before your opponent can even use them again. And then Alistair is ridiculous because of Shadow's Light. Like, this card is just ridiculous, bro. So, like, you can normal Owlie the star, right? Get Invocation, and then activate Shadow's Light and just summon out Cartesia directly from your deck. And that's, like, full combo. Like, it's crazy. That's, like, full combo and some, because it gets better. Because you can Cartesia, right? You can do like Ali into, like Artemis or whatever, or whatever. Do your thing. Use Cartesia, fuse her and this into this, right? And then dump Opcalone, get your Shaddol engine online, and then Invo into a Makaba. But like then you add Ali the Star back, and then you use Shadow's Light to normal summon Ali the Star again and get his effect to add invocation. And then like that's where Kaliga comes in handy, because the Shaddol engine is gonna give you the excess darks. So like you already have Makaba unfilled, and you've already accessed your Shaddol engine through Gongno. But also its other effect is where like the Dogmatica package have an extra impact, because you don't have to really draw them at all. Like you can literally just banish this card from your field or grave and just summon out a Dogmatica, and that literally is normally just going to be the interaction is Ecclesia into Fleur de Lis. So like that's one interruption, right? Makaba's 2 interruptions. The Shaddol cards gives you a 3rd interruption, and then the second activation of Ali the Star gets you a 4th interruption, and then you have follow-up via the Shaddol cards, you have follow-up via Cartesia, you have follow-up via your Invoke cards, because you don't have to summon Alistair again. Bro, off of 2 cards. It's off of 2 cards. It's off of 2 cards. This card is... If this ain't broken, I don't know what is. This is not power crept. I think the other cards in this deck are considered to be power crept at this point. They have not seen the light and day in so long, and when they do see the light and day, it's always an uphill battle, it feels like, and people just look at them like, they think, why would I play this deck when I could just play tier? Why would I play a fusion deck that's not tier? You know what I mean? And that's fine. To each his own, make your own choices, who cares? But this is not a power crept card. I don't think anybody's going to look at this and say, nah, this is not good enough. It's not going to be doing anything in this meta. No, this card has applications through the wazoo. It can do almost anything, depending on the deck that you put it in. I think its greatest functionality that I could think of on the fly was this interaction with Alistair and Cartesia. It's just ridiculous. It is just ridiculous. I even was thinking about playing, like, because you can technically make Borreload Savage and like equip this, but that's just so goofy. I feel like it's not worth it. I don't think this deck needs like Omni Negates when you already have Makaba and you can search spells, traps, or monsters, so you can consistently have the form of negation that you feel is the most suited to whatever you think your board is susceptible to. You can make your Makaba predicated to defending you from that specific counterplay. So I don't really think you need to, but the fact that she's a tuner, it makes me want to do more than I have business doing. But this card is just ridiculous, and it's like without fusion deployment there's still more ways to access her, which makes her just a godsend. Being a level 4 light spellcaster and Ali the Star, it's just too good. It's just too good. I never really summoned Ecclesia off of this just because her restriction, but it's nice to like do it at the end. It's just like Ali the Star has to be there for you to target this, so like you're really never summoning her off of that. And for the most part, you're normally consistently accessing her off of Gongno, because Gongno by itself gives me the Dogmatica and the Shaddol engine just off of Ecclesia. So like essentially, when you really think of it, just Alistair plus Shadow's Light gives you access to your entire deck. Your Invoked engine, your Cartesia engine, your Dogmatica engine, and your Shaddol engine. You get to play your whole deck with 2 cards. You get massive disruptions that can be diversified because you can pick what you summon, and you have follow-up, and it's like almost impossible to be OTK'd. It's insane. And then I play 2 Invo. I just really like the new art. The OG art has ultis. That's the only reason why I'd probably play the OG over this, but like this art is just so much more beautiful. And then double L. I'm a very big, I'm just very, very adamant on this card. It has to be in your deck. I'm not playing 3 simply because I'm not playing like a super large Shaddol count right now, so you can dead draw it, and that's what I don't want to do. I am playing it at 2 because the functionality of this card and its applications are too relevant to risk it being lost to like a Runic interaction or a Kashtira interaction, or just like simply just it just being gone because shufflers and stuff. Like, it's crazy. Talents is talents. Tasking is just it's better than talents in every way, shape, and form. This very, very small 3-card Dogmatica package. One of the most beautiful things with Nadir 2 is that like it can add from grave, but it does more because dumping Opcalone and then using Opcalone's effect to like put itself back actually matters, and it comes up. You can even Opcalone to to like put construct back if you have an excess op cologne, and you can infinitely loop off cologne with incarnation and just keep recycling your extra deck. You can literally op cologne effect, put back construct, and then like you make construct and get resh back, and then you can just like resh for op cologne and then op cologne. It's infinite. Like this deck can grind infinite. It can technically plus infinite. It just won't plus immeasurably to the point where you're discarding during in phase. It just is really good with stability. It gains and maintains the same advantage that it gains. It will not really diminish economically. Like your cards will always replace themselves. So think of it like more or less break even 1-for-1 trades that technically are plus worthy, because the interactions that you use those cards with on your opponent, you always take a card from your opponent and give a card to yourself in the process of like putting a body on field. So it is plus ones. Your hand size is just not going to be super fat unless you're doing like a lot of SHADDOLL cards. A lot of SHADDOLL plays are going to give you cards back to your hand. The invokes are just like always going to be a free trade, you know. Dogmatica is like you're not plussing unless it's off a nadir. Let's just be real. 3 traps, you know, you're not trying to break like on traps, but like these are all relevant. Like all of these have their own scenarios, and punishment is almost always going to dump either op cologne or the Gung. If you didn't already see Gung, you're just gonna like dump Gung. It's insane though, because like really, what the way I see op cologne is it's better than Elder. Because like if I need to pop something, it's more than likely to spell a trap, because op cologne can just negate a monster anyways. And I'm not really worried about spot removal or clearing cards because of like Schism and Winda. But also the fact that like I can just DD crow my opponent if I need to. It just makes it more versatile. So most of the time I'm just going punishment for op cologne. Sometimes, you know, seldom will I punishment for the Gung or even for a construct. So due to how I built my extra deck, I chose not to run Elder on purpose. She's a great card, but the only thing that she does that the op cologne can't do is just pop monsters. But realistically, you don't really need to. You really don't. And outside of like all of this being standard, I am playing my Cross Sheep and Alistair package again, because my turn 1 combos get really ridiculous and I can just pump out so much. And Cross Sheep is what enables the Dweller plays more consistently, because like I am pretty much predicating a large portion of my combo to Dweller. And no matter what I end on, I feel like if I do not end on Dweller, I have to end on Kaliga. If I cannot get Dweller or Kaliga, I just feel like Winda is not enough. She's an incredible card, but like if you can't do it, then your next best bet is Winda Aguadis, because if your opponent is on Cash Tiras and they summon Fenrir, Fenrir will out Winda by itself. It can actually out 2 Windas by itself, but if you pop it on summon, that's their one summon, and it's like it can banish the Winda like off of Aguadi's effect triggering, because it's a monster effect activating, but like you always have double Winda. But like Fenrir itself really does like just trade with like 2 Windas. It can literally just attack over 1, not use its effect, and then when you make your other Winda, you more than often have to like use a monster effect, and like Fenrir just banishes the second Winda. So like it's super important to have that interaction established, and that's why I just feel like Kaliga has to be there, and if it's not Kaliga, it's Dweller. But most often I structure my turn 1 combo to get Dweller and Kaliga. So it's really consistent. It's really easy. You do it like 89% of the time. Like it literally is just like you can draw any hand, and it just really, this deck doesn't break. It's way too consistent, and almost every hand does the same thing, even when you draw different cards. So yeah, God bless you guys. Make good choices. Don't hurt your brain cells. Stay tuned for future content. You have a beautiful day. All right, peace. Deuces is wild, baby.